Good morning, guys. Good morning. Got a bunch of nice snow here. It's well, we got the warning for the snow, and they said that there would be about 6 to 10 inches. What the hell is today? Today is Wednesday. It is Wednesday at 4:58 in the morning. They said that there was going to be about 10 inches of snow they were calling for. Well, it was oh hell. See guys, I'm half awake. I'm talking in frickin' circles. They said there were about 6 to 10 inches of snow is what they called for. Monday night they said that we would get today. And then they changed it to, it was going to be 5 to 6 inches of snow. And then they changed it again, of course, because they said we get 3 to 5 inches of snow. And I don't know what happened with that. They, looks like I got a plow marker stuck inside my plow there. We'll drop that off. We'll put it back up after. So then they changed it again, and they weren't sure what we would get, and then they well, it started off last night with freezing rain like crazy. We had a lot of freezing rain. I was actually at church for our Lenten dinners that we do during Lent. We do them every Tuesday night during Lent. We have a short mass, and then we have the dinners, and then we have the short mass right afterwards. But halfway through, Pastor called it off and said, "Everybody go home. It's getting nasty out there. It's all icy." And it was freezing rain for quite a bit coming down. Everything was getting real slick, and they said that's how this was going to start off. Stand by, guys. I got to pull that plow marker out of there. All right, but anyway, they said it was supposed to start off as freezing rain, which it did, and then after that it just started snowing, and it's supposed to actually die out here in about an hour. It's actually getting a lot lighter already. But it looks like there's probably about 4 to 5 inches out there right now. So I guess that's what we're getting out of this storm. And the funny thing is I took my plow off my truck the other day. We had Sunday, it was like 50 degrees outside, and I figured if we do get any more snow, it's going to be a very little bit, nothing real plowable, so to speak. So I wasn't too worried about it. And so I figured I'd just throw the plow out there if need be. So I put the plow back on last night, but another thing that I did, the other day was I took all the weight out of the back of my truck. I figured we get a little bit of snow, it's not going to be nothing too bad, I don't need the weight in there. And now we got all this freezing rain with the snow. So, all these wipers got to be annoying. We got all this freezing rain with the snow, so it's actually ice underneath all of this, which really sucks. I hate that. You know, any of you guys that are watching this that actually plow snow, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. plowing frickin', ooh, there must be a pile that was still hardened up there, very little bit left. Everywhere else it's about melted right up, there ain't nothing left. I guess there's a little bit left there. But anyway, when you get that freezing rain first and then it snows over top of it, everything's ice and it just frickin' sucks. Because then you got to be twice as careful. What ends up happening is while you're plowing snow, there's everything's ice underneath it, so it makes everything a hell of a lot more slippery. So you got to be careful. You got to watch it when you're plowing. You don't go sliding into people's houses, garage doors, stuff like that. You just gotta go slower, pay a lot more attention to what you're doing. Things like that. It makes it a lot harder to get around too, because the highway departments, if you're lucky, they're out there early salting and getting rid of a lot of that ice, you know, and then you just go from there and then, you know, cruise around, get to the places you need to get to, and you plow the snow. But the problem with that is, you know, they don't always get out there right away to do that. So now everything that you're driving on is icy, the roads are slick, it's harder, takes a lot longer to get around. So, you know, when it takes a lot longer to get around, you're not getting to all the houses as fast as you normally would. So that comes into play. That makes a big difference. And now you have to make sure that, you know, you leave early enough and start plowing early enough that you can get the ones done that you have to, that need to be done before you know, before people got to leave for work. So, which is pretty much what I'm doing right now. I usually don't go in this order. When I'm out plowing, I go a different direction and I hit these ones after a little while. So they're not like, I'm usually not hitting them right away, but like I said, it's about 5 o'clock now. And a lot of these people got to leave for work, so these driveways got to be clear before they leave for work. I have a list of, you know, out of my normal route of everything that I plow. This driveway's a pain in the ass. I hate back dragging. It'd be so much easier if I could just push it up and stack this stuff right here up into that little turnaround. But they don't want it there, and like you guys have seen in my other videos, if people don't let me put the snow where I want to put it, then the price just goes up from there, which they definitely pay. They definitely pay for this, you know, because I could just push up and push off to the right there, and, you know, like I did in the beginning of this driveway when I came in. But, you know, I can't do that because they want snow in other places. So it is what it is. It's a pain in the butt, but, you know, they pay for it, so what are you gonna do? But yes, like I was saying, when you plow, you have a list. I do that at the beginning of every year. Even customers, existing customers that I've had, you know, for a couple years, I ask them all, what time do you leave for work in the morning? And, you know, I base that on who I'm going to get to first when we have an overnight snow. All that makes a big difference. So, I got a bunch of loose freaking crap snow right here. But yeah, so they get, you know, you find out who's got to leave for work first, and those are the ones that get plowed first. You make sure their driveways are clear, you know, beforehand. So you can't always do that. Sometimes you just gotta, you know, go through it, do the best you can, and it is what it is. But, you know, if I can help it, then that's what I do. Try to get these guys done beforehand so they can get to work, and then the other ones, you know, I just worry about them as I get to them. But yeah, this is it's light fluffy snow. There's nothing, it's not a heavy wet snow, which I'm thankful for since I took the weight out. It definitely changes things. If this was a heavy wet snow, I'd have been out in the side of my house where I stack all my weight. I use you know, I'm sure you guys have seen before, and you guys that follow along, I use concrete cinder blocks. I put 7 of them. See, it's blowing now. That wind's blowing. Starting to get a little more snow in the driveway, but it's nothing they can't drive past. Like I said, they claim, and according to the picture on the weather map, it's supposed to be out of here in a little under an hour right now, so it ain't gonna drop any more than maybe an inch, and they can get through that no problem. But yeah, so I have 7 of those cinder blocks that I keep in the bed of my truck, and that's plenty of weight. And you guys that plow, you know that too much weight is worse than not having any weight, so it can make things even worse. Some people say the more weight the better, but it doesn't always work that way. It hasn't in my experience anyway. But yeah, so it's all a bunch of light fluffy snow, so it doesn't seem like it's a problem. And we'll get through this list and see what happens. Hopefully this is the last snow. Like I took that weight out, I took the plow off, I did all that stuff because they were all next week coming up is supposed to hit like the 50s and even low 60s all week, and I thought, okay, we're through the worst of this. If we get anything, it ain't gonna be that bad, which this really isn't. 4 inches, 5 inches ain't too bad, but we'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm hoping this is it, because I've had enough. Some guys are praying for this, especially the guys that, you know, haven't gotten any snow all winter long. You know, we haven't gotten barely any. Guys want this snow, they need this snow, they rely on this snow. But you guys know my story. You know, I don't rely on it, I don't need it. So I'm just ready to get back into mowing. I just want to cut that grass. So that's the sooner I can get back to that, the happier I will be. So I guess we just see what happens. Hopefully I get back to it sooner than later, and maybe this will be the final snowfall. I don't know. We will see. We will see. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's not scraping right down, and that's because of that layer of ice. You know, sometimes with heavy wet snow, it doesn't scrape down that easy anyway. The bigger, heavier blade you have, the easier it is to scrape it down, but you know, you guys know I run a poly plow, and that's one of the downsides of running a poly plow, is it doesn't always have the weight to scrape right down. Having those wings on there adds quite a bit extra weight to it, so it definitely changes things and gives me more weight, but it's still not, you know, it's still not the weight of a heavy steel blade. You know, so that all makes a difference, but it is what it is. When you get this that base layer of ice underneath it, you know, you're not gonna scrape it right down anyway. You're gonna see what you see there with that little bit. Maybe I'll zoom you guys in for a second here. I got nothing better to fucking do anyway. You see that base? Gotta get that base look on there where it doesn't look like solid blacktop. That's why, because of the layer of ice that's there, and it the layer of ice that's there, it just keeps you from scraping it down all the way. But it's down low enough to where people can get they can get out of their driveways or in their driveways or whatever they're doing. What That's another thing when it's like this, guys, and you get that ice first, that ice rain, and you get that layer, that coating of ice across the driveway. If it would have just snowed 2 inches, you guys know that, you know, 90% of my contracts are all 2 to 3 inches. That's where I'm at. It just really all depends. Most of them are 3 inches. But if we'd have just gotten like 2 inches, maybe 2.5, I wouldn't even plow these driveways right now. And the main reason is because you get that layer of ice on there and that snow over top of it, you're going to get much better traction. You're going to get much better traction with that 2 inches of snow on top of that ice. You're much better off to just leave that 2 inches on there. You scrape that 2 inches off of that ice in the driveway, you know, even though you don't have all the snow, the driveway becomes a lot more slippery to drive on. That little 2 inches of snow is going to give you a ton of traction. So it just all depends. You got to judge it. You got to know what you're dealing with. You know, all that makes a big difference. All comes into play. It's pretty much, it's experience. You know, you just learn that. You know, before I always thought, oh, just frickin' plow it. Just push that snow and plow it, and you know, and be done with it. Well, it's, you know, it's not the case. You know, you realize real quick once you take that couple little inches off the top, you know, things get a lot more slippery. Actually hear it. It must be I don't really, to be honest with you guys, I don't really know. There's a little rock wall right there. I just kind of picked the snow up over top of it. I don't really know what the temperature is right now, to be honest with you guys. I know last night when this ice was coming down, it was like 28 degrees. 28 degrees is what the temperature was last night. I'm not sure what it is right now. I'll check for you here in a minute, but hold on. Trying to make sure I don't slide in this garage door. It was 28 degrees last night when all this was really coming down. So I don't know what the temperature is right now, but it actually, I think it's definitely warmed up a little bit because I can pushing the snow, I can hear it. It sounds like slushy. It sounds slushy on the driveway, like I'm actually scooping up some of that like slushy, icy crap. So you can tell the town highway department has not been through here yet and plowed any of this. So they'll come through here in a little while and fill all my driveways back in because they're so kind. Which I know somebody will probably ask me when they watch this video, when that happens, do I come back through and clear out the ends of the driveway for my customers? Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. It just really all depends. You know, so I'll take a look at a bunch of them and I'll see what the town scraped off the road and how much they actually put into the end of a driveway. And I'll also base it on, okay, how warm is it going to get today throughout the day? How much sun is there going to be? You know, if there's a little bit there and it's nothing big and they can drive through it, and then I know the rest of it's going to melt off, then I usually won't bother. If it's going to be really cold, we may get more snow. You know, there's a lot in the roads that I know is going to fill in them driveways, things like that. All that stuff comes into play. If it's going to be anything like that, then I'll come back through it and just clear the end out for them. You know, and I know the next question will be, well, do I charge for that? Usually the only place I have an issue, the only houses I do residentials are right near my house, less than a mile from my house. There's like 3 or 4 of them that are maybe 2-3 miles away, but other than that, the majority of them are right near my house. So those ones there, you know, I'll just take a quick buzz by them. By then the roads are clear, they're salted, I can buzz around pretty quick, and then I can just sweep out the ends of the driveway. I don't even have to put the truck in 4-wheel drive, you know, because I get plenty of traction from the roads because the roads are clear. So I just, you know, drive by each house, and I just, you know, if I'm coming up on one and I see there's a whole bunch of snow there, I drop the blade, push it real quick, back up, down the road I go. It takes less than 4 seconds to actually do it, so no, I don't charge for that. But like I said, it's not something I guarantee that I do. So, you know, I don't tell my customers, you know, I always come back the next day and clear out the end of the driveway after the town or the city, whatever's been through there, you know, and that's no extra charge. I don't tell them that because then, you know, obviously they expect it, and I could spend 10 minutes plowing their driveway in a heavy storm, and then the next day I don't come back and take that 4 seconds and sweep out just that little bit the town left in the end of their driveway, and then somebody will complain and say they're not paying me for plowing their driveway because I didn't finish the job, you know, even though I cleared their entire freaking driveway. So, you know, I don't tell people that. I don't. It's just something I do. If I have time to do it and it's not a big deal, I'm not really going out of my way, then I'll do it. But other than that, I don't. It's not in my contracts. I don't make it a point to say, oh yeah, I do it every time, I'll be there, clear it out the next day. I don't do that. It's just more of a time issue for me. Do I have the time to do it? You know, like I just explained to you guys. So that's the deal with that. Alright guys, we're gonna cruise down the road here, and there goes a guy with a little yellow light in his window. Alright, I'm gonna cruise down the road, and head to the next one. I'll record some more. Stay with me. Well, this is a driveway that's kind of like an on-call thing. They live in New Mexico. They don't even live here, but I mow this, and they, a buddy I know takes care of the house during the winter, so I keep it cleared out for him so that he can get into the house and do what he's got to do and all that other fancy stuff. There's not even that much snow here, but I'm gonna clear it out anyway for him because it's gonna be all drifted eventually, and that's just the way it is around here with the wind and everything else. It gets everything drifts up. At least the sun's out now and the storm has stopped and it's pretty nice. But that wind, like I said, is kicking up. Which never makes it any fun. So, keep that wind, keep plowing it in a certain direction so that I don't have to deal with the wind coming back through and drifting everything over, because that just sucks. Then you got to come back and clear out frickin' drifts, because where you put the snow, there's now drifts there, and it just makes everything a pain in the butt. So you got to know where your drifts are going to be at. Usually around here it's not too hard to figure out. That's the Niagara River right there, so everything usually just blows right off the river, and then it all blows up towards that house. Some areas you got to watch for because it blows from a certain way. So if you wind roll the snow in a certain direction, it's just going to, if the wind's coming from that way, it's just going to blow the snow drifts back right across the driveway again. So that's pretty it on this one. Pretty simple. In, around the house, and back out. Sometimes it takes a lot more on that one. It just all depends on how much snow is there.